Hello, everyone. This is Ed Brenegar, and welcome to the Eddy Network Podcast. And today I'm introducing season 3. I'm amazed that I have now reached season 3. That means there have been over 200 episodes of the Eddy Network Podcast that you've been given and you've had access to, and which means that there's going to be another 100 or so this year. That's my assumption, and that's what I'm seeking to do. So I'm very pleased with where things are, and we'll continue to do what I've been doing. But I want to say something. It's kind of a reminder of why I'm doing this and what I seek to present in doing so. I Years ago I was doing a lot of talking on and a lot of talking online, and it was and some people said you're doing great, and but I didn't see that that content that I was presenting translating into action that made a difference that matters. And so I did some podcasts. I was on other people's podcasts for a couple of years, and I was not really satisfied with what I saw there. A lot of talk, a lot of promotion, and I really wasn't seeing that the promotional stuff was very beneficial. And which I think is indicative of where in many respects business is today. It's all about a lot of it's about promotion and seeking to be influential. And maybe that works for some people, but I don't find it very beneficial. In fact, I don't find influence, unless you can demonstrate that your influence is actually changing something, actually makes a difference that matters, and not simply changing a person's attitude or a mindset towards you. I don't think it's of very much value. And so what I think is more important is creating impact, which is a change that makes a difference that matters. And the people that I have been interviewing, many of them are people who I would call persons of impact or leaders of impact, because they are doing things, they are making a difference, and their difference is more than simply being an influential social media personality. They're doing things in their businesses, in their local communities, through their families. And that is why I wanted to interview them. I'm not interested in interviewing stars. I'm not interested in interviewing celebrities. I'm interested in interviewing regular people, average people. They have something to say, and they have something to demonstrate to us. I mean, many of these people are doing things, but no one gives them credit. They don't do it because they seek credit. They do it because it's out of their own sense of purpose. And I'm suggesting that is how we're going to survive the changes that we're going through. I mean, I see, for example, AI is going to have a tremendous impact upon business. But in many respects, AI is like the kind of things that show up in many social media posts, which is a form of information intended to influence and inform. But does it lead to action? Does it cause something to change? And I think maybe the biggest change would something that you discovered in using an AI machine or AI program cause you to think, I'm done with this. I'm not going to use it anymore. And you're doing that because AI has been effective in changing the way you see the world and see yourself operating in the world. Now, I'm not suggesting that's something you should do. I'm just suggesting that a a way of measuring a person's influence is how they respond in action. And I'll give you one example. I had a virtual assistant years ago, and before my Circle of Impact book was published, I gave her the manuscript and I left to go to Europe for a month. And I said, please read this and let me know what you think, because I'll have to finish the manuscript when I return. And I returned and she had read the manuscript and she said, you're not going to like what I'm going to say. And I said, oh no, it's that bad. No, and what she said was, I realized that I'm not supposed to be doing this. I'm supposed to be doing something else, and I need to go do that. So I'm leaving. I'm leaving you. And I could not have been happier, because it led to one thing and then it's led to another thing. And she and her husband are involved in their own business now. And I could have been more happy for her. And it proved to me that what I was saying in the book was not simply another book on leadership, but actually a blueprint or a pathway for people to figure out where they can go make a difference in the world, which is still my purpose. To encourage and equip you to take personal initiative to create impact in your local communities. That's really what I want to do. So when the podcast began 2 years ago, that was my purpose. I wanted to go find people. I wanted to talk to people who were making a difference in their world, in the context of their world, the situations that they lived in. I wanted to understand what they were doing. And I found those people. And there are all kinds of people. I mean, I've had people from all over the world. And there's a common thread that ties us all together. And that common thread is, I have a purpose and I'm going to act on that purpose. I'm going to figure out how I'm going to do this. And when you are clear about that, and when you're clear about that and you decide, I'm going to do this, and I may have to do this at first by myself, but I'm committed to making this happen, then you are a person of impact. And so that's the kind of person I wanted to interview. And I have been so pleased with the people that I've met, because they're not doing it because they know Ed Brenegar. They're not doing it because they've read a book by me or anything like that. They're doing it because something else in their life has come about where they have decided this is important for me to do. And oftentimes what is important for you to do runs counter to what other people think you should be doing. So sometimes you have to say no to all the expectations that are placed on you. And when you can say no and carry through on your no, you really are really saying something that's a yes. This is what's important to me. And these are the people I'm interviewing. So as of this morning, I think I posted this morning the 202nd episode of the Eddy Network Podcast. And you will see this. This will be the 203rd, which will come out in a couple of days. And so what I want to say to you is that you don't have to watch all of these episodes. They're going to be there if you want them. They're going to be there when something comes along and something in the back of your mind says, Ed was talking to someone about that. Who was that? And maybe you need to reach out to me and say, who was it you were talking to when they said this? Or I have this question. Who is it that you have talked to that can answer that question? And so in this sense, the Eddy Network Podcast is a genuine network. And these are all people from one degree to another connected to me, and from one degree to another now connected to the people who watch the episode. And I'm going to continue doing this. And and in all humility, I do not see any reason to ever stop this, because there are a lot of people out there to interview. And I think that what I want to do is carry some of the experience of what people are having with me in this podcast. I want to carry that into public places where people get a feel for this, because feeling it in your bones, feeling in your body is a way of learning, oh, this is how I want to be. This is how I want to live my life. And I want to live my life where my life matters in some tangible way. And a lot of these people, their lives matter in a very tangible way. And I'm humbled. I'm humbled to meet these people. And the beauty is that someone that knows them has said, you need to meet Ed and you need to be on his podcast. So the magic of networking through introductions is more than proven to me. Over probably two-thirds of the people that I've interviewed, maybe more, but I'm just going to say two-thirds, are people I didn't know before we spoke. Someone introduced us, or I saw something, in social media. I saw something somewhere about this person, and I reach out to them and say, I like what you're doing. I'd like to talk with you. I'd like to hear more about what you're doing. I would like to expose your personal commitment to do this thing. I'd like to give some exposure to that in the world, because there'll be other people who share that with you and you don't know them and they don't know you at this point. And that's why I'm doing this. So I want to say three things and then close off so we can get on to next week. The first is, if you know someone that you have deep respect for and you feel like is unnoticed, introduce them to me. Just send us both an email saying, I think you ought to be on Ed's podcast, and I'll reach out to them and take care of it. So my email address is ed@edbrenegar.com. Very simple. The second thing is, I want you to recognize that one of the secrets, it's not really a secret, but one of the secrets or the keys to what we've done, what I've done here with the podcast, is create an environment of conversation where there is no script and there's no agenda. I don't have any expectations other than we're going to have a conversation. I'm going to learn something about this person. We're going to learn about each other. And so I want to be really clear that this idea of an unscripted conversation is not just a clever little marketing thing, or it's not just a little thing that's good for a podcast. No, this is something which, if you were to grasp hold of this idea, it could make a real difference. Now, imagine having a family meeting and you're the parent and you're constantly talking to your children, talking to your spouse about what you want and what if you gathered everybody together and you're having dinner and you said, I'm not going to say anything tonight. And I'm just going nuts. I'm not taking control over it. We're going to have an unscripted conversation. So what do you want to talk about? And you respect each person's desire to talk about whatever it is they want to talk about. And you do that. Yeah. So that, I think learning to do that is a part of what could be an outcome of the podcast, is you see how to have a conversation with people where it's open and it's free and it's unscripted and you learn from each other and there's a mutuality of respect which builds trust and gratitude, and it moves the relationship forward. The third thing is, I don't know exactly how it's going to do this, but I think the podcast needs to have a public face to it. Not my face. Not I don't mean a public face. I mean it needs to have a public experience to that. And I'm not quite sure how this is going to unfold, but my plan is to hold a public event once a quarter, and we gather for 3 or 4 hours, and it will be unscripted, except for some 10, 15-minute presentation from me. But what I would like to see in that is gathering of people who it's not the typical business after hours thing where everybody's got their business card or they got their digital business card in their phone and they're sharing it and they say, hey, well, this is who I am, this is what I do. You want to get together for coffee next week? It's not that. It's like, who are you and what do you do and how do you do that? How did you get into this? And are you still glad you're doing this? And if you could do it over again, would you do it differently? I mean, these are deeper questions that help us to connect with people at the level of meaning, because whenever someone tells you, this is why I do it, they're telling you something about why, they're telling you something about the meaning of things. And I think that's increasingly important for us, particularly in a social media age where everything is about the screen and everything is about the image, and the image is to increase influence that puts eyes on the screen and numbers and generates revenue. But it doesn't build relationships, it doesn't build networks, it doesn't create change. It's just the latest form of mass marketing, and I'm not really interested in that. So I keep pushing back against almost daily people who look at my podcast stuff and say, you could be doing more. You could do this. I said, yeah, I know that. I'm happy with what it is because it's not focused on the numbers. It's focused on the relationships. Should I do more SEO? Yeah, sure. But it's also for you to understand, I do all of this myself. I'm not using other people. I'm not using AI. It's all on me. And so that authenticity, which I'm suggesting it is part of the experience of the Eddy Network Podcast. And I tell you, it's not easy. It's a lot of work, um, because I have to, in essence, market the person that I've interviewed back to you. I have to write some things in a couple of places which says, this is why this person matters to me and why they should matter to you. And that's an incredibly good thing to do. To be able to say to someone you've just met, this is why I enjoyed meeting her or him, and this is what I'd like you to know about her or him. So all of this in many respects is a very contrarian venture in networking through introductions, networking of people who are persons of impact, and networking for the purpose of demonstrating how we can actually have more human relationships with one another. So I think I've said enough. Well, maybe not. What I want you to know is that the coming year, I'm going to have more artists and more people who are neurodivergent, more people who are polymaths, people who are community leaders. I'm doing I'm making a real effort to find people here in my hometown of Winston-Salem, North Carolina, that I'm going to interview. And there's a separate playlist of those interviews. And I really see that what this will be is a statement about this community that is unfiltered and unscripted by an institution, whether it's the Chamber of Commerce or the mayor's office or any of the academic institutions or some large business. No, these are not. This is a picture of this community, um, and I think that's a valuable thing. And if that sounds like something that you would like to see happen for your community, then reach out to me and we'll figure out some way to do that. And basically, what that would mean is we would need to identify at the beginning 10 to 15 people for me to do a podcast interview for you in your community. They'd still go through my normal podcast, but we would create a playlist of people from your community that also says this is who we are as the members of this community. And it could be a business community, it could be a faith community, it could be your physical community of the neighborhood, the city that you live in. But I think that lends a way of presenting a picture of a place that is not mediated by institutional considerations or political considerations or economic considerations or ideological considerations. It's just here are 20 people from this community who have been introduced to me, and I'm having a conversation with them. And I can tell you that's a great thing. So I thank you for watching. I appreciate you sharing the podcast with people. Appreciate your comments, and we'll see what happens in this third season of the Eddy Network Podcast. And we will see you next week or later this week, but then next week for the first episode of the new year. And I thank you. Bye-bye.